I was home alone the night something knocked on my second floor window, and when the lightning flashed, I saw the handprint, wet, streaking down the glass, from the outside. It was late September, and the storm that rolled through our town that night was one of those freak weather events you hear about on the news, but never think will actually hit you. The kind where meteorologists use words like unprecedented and dangerous. By 10 p.m., the power was already flickering. By 10:30, it was gone completely. I wasn't too worried at first. I'm used to storms, grew up in this house. But this one felt different. The wind didn't just howl, it screamed. The whole structure groaned like it was trying to hold itself together. Rain hammered the roof so hard, I thought it might cave in. I grabbed a flashlight and decided to just ride it out in my room upstairs. That's when I heard it, a soft tapping on my window. At first, I figured it was a branch. We had a few trees in the backyard, and storms always sent them scraping against the siding. But then I remembered, we'd cut those trees back last summer. There was nothing close enough to touch the house anymore. I aimed my flashlight at the window. Nothing. Just rain streaking down the glass in chaotic patterns. Then the lightning flashed, and I saw it. A handprint, palm flat against the window, fingers spread wide, wet, fresh, on the outside of the glass. My heart kicked into overdrive. I stared at the window, waiting for another flash to confirm what I'd just seen. The tapping came again. 3 slow knocks, deliberate, like someone was testing to see if I'd respond. I didn't move. I could barely breathe. Another flash, the handprint was still there, but now it looked bigger, like whoever or whatever made it was pressing harder. I forced myself to think logically. Maybe it was some kind of residue, something left over from when we'd cleaned the windows last week. Maybe the rain was just, reactivating it somehow. But that didn't explain the tapping. I remembered the security cameras. My dad had installed them a few months back after a string of break-ins in the neighborhood. One of them faced directly at the backyard, right where my window was. I pulled out my phone, opened the app, and scrubbed back to a few minutes ago. The feed showed exactly what I expected. Rain, wind, trees bending almost sideways. But the window? Nothing. No person, no shape, no movement at all. Just an empty frame being pelted by the storm. Yet even as I watched the live feed, I heard it again. Tap, tap, tap. Faster this time, more insistent. I looked up from my phone, and that's when the lightning flashed again, longer this time, bright enough to light up the whole room. And I saw it. A figure, tall, impossibly tall, clinging to the side of the house, not standing on a ladder, not hanging from the roof, clinging. Its fingers were splayed out like a spider's legs pressed against the siding, and its face was inches from the glass, tilted at an unnatural angle like it was trying to see inside. The darkness swallowed it up the second the lightning faded. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over my own feet. My mind was racing, trying to rationalize what I'd just seen. Maybe it was a person, some psycho trying to break in during the storm. But no one could cling to the side of a house like that. Not without equipment. Not like that. The tapping changed. It became rhythmic, slow, almost playful almost. Like whoever was out there was enjoying this. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. The line crackled with static, but I got through. I could barely get the words out. Something about someone outside my window, second floor, please send someone. The dispatcher said they'd send a unit, but with the storm, it might take a while. I didn't take my eyes off the window. I kept waiting for another flash, another glimpse. But the lightning had gone quiet. The tapping stopped too. For a moment, I thought maybe it was over. Maybe whatever it was had left. Then I heard footsteps on the roof. Heavy, deliberate footsteps moving slowly from one end of the house to the other, directly above my bedroom. And then, Worse than the footsteps, I heard crawling, like something dragging itself across the shingles, nails scraping against the roof. It was right above me. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just stood there in the dark, listening to it move back and forth, like it was pacing, searching. Then suddenly, nothing. Complete silence. Even the storm seemed to quiet for a moment, like the world was holding its breath. I heard sirens in the distance. The police were coming. I bolted downstairs and waited by the front door, shaking, flashlight clutched in my hand like a weapon. 2 officers showed up about 10 minutes later, drenched and irritated. I told them everything about the handprint, the figure, the sounds on the roof. They exchanged a look I didn't like, but they checked anyway. They circled the house with their flashlights, looked up at the roof, even climbed a ladder to check the siding near my window. Nothing. No prints, no scratches, no sign anyone had been there at all. One of them suggested it might have been an animal, a raccoon maybe, and the handprint was probably just condensation. I didn't argue. I just thanked them and watched them leave. The power came back on around 1 a.m. The house hummed back to life, lights, heat, the fridge in the kitchen. I went back upstairs, exhausted, my nerves completely shot. I checked the window one more time. The handprint was gone, washed away by the rain, I guess. I convinced myself I'd imagined the worst of it. Storms mess with your head. Shadows play tricks. I climbed into bed, pulled the covers up, and closed my eyes. I was just starting to relax when the lightning flashed one last time. And there it was. The same handprint, wet, streaking down the glass. But this time, it was on the inside of the window. The emergency broadcast came on during the worst storm we'd seen in 15 years. And then it started saying my name. It was a Saturday night in late October when the supercell hit. Not a hurricane, not a tornado, something in between that the weather reports couldn't quite categorize. My parents, my younger sister, and I were all hunkered down in the living room, candles ready, flashlights charged. The rain didn't sound like rain. It sounded like someone throwing gravel at the house, relentless and angry. The windows rattled in their frames. We'd been through storms before, but this one had everyone on edge. My dad kept checking his phone, refreshing the radar. My mom sat on the couch with her arms wrapped around herself, staring at the TV even though we'd muted it to save our nerves from the constant weather updates. That's when every screen in the house lit up at once. The TV, my phone, my sister's tablet, even the old radio on the kitchen counter crackled to life. All of them displaying the same thing. A black screen with white text, and that awful monotone voice reading it aloud. This is an emergency broadcast. A severe weather event is in progress. Stay indoors. Do not approach windows. Do not respond to any voices outside your home, even if they sound familiar. Repeat. Do not respond to voices even if you recognize them. My sister looked at me, confused. What does that mean? Probably just a warning about downed power lines or something, my dad said. But his voice was uncertain. People shouting for help, but it's too dangerous to go out. The broadcast looped. Same message, same robotic cadence. Then, as suddenly as it started, everything went silent. The screens went dark. The house felt heavier somehow, like the air pressure had changed. That's when we heard the banging. Someone was pounding on the front door, hard, desperate. Help! Please, someone help me! It was a woman's voice, raw and panicked, nearly drowned out by the storm. My dad stood up, instinctively moving toward the door, but my mom grabbed his arm. Wait, she whispered. The voice outside screamed again. Please, I'm hurt. I need help. My mom's face had gone completely white because the voice outside, it sounded exactly like her. That's not possible, she said, her own voice shaking. I'm right here. I haven't left this room. My dad stared at her, then at the door. The banging continued, frantic now, accompanied by sobbing. Please, please open the door. It's me. I'm so cold. My sister started crying. I felt my stomach twist into knots. The voice was perfect. Every inflection, every break in the tone, it was my mother's voice. Mom, you're here, right? I said stupidly, like I needed confirmation of what I could clearly see. I'm here, she said firmly, but I could see the fear in her eyes. I'm right here. The voice outside shifted, becoming more insistent. Danny? Danny, it's Mom. Please unlock the door, sweetheart. That was my name. My full name, not the nickname everyone used. How does it know? I started, but my dad cut me off. Nobody answer it, nobody say a word. The banging stopped. For a moment, there was just the sound of the storm. Then the voice spoke again, quieter now, almost hurt. Danny, why won't you help me? Don't you remember when I used to call you my little bear when you were scared of the dark? My blood ran cold. Nobody called me that, except my mom. And she hadn't used that nickname since I was 7 years old. My mom was shaking now, tears streaming down her face. I used to say that. How? Lightning flashed, bright enough to illuminate the entire front yard through the window. And we saw her. A figure, standing in the driveway. A woman, hair plastered to her face, clothes soaked through. She was wearing a blue cardigan, the same one my mom used to wear all the time, years ago, before she donated it to Goodwill. The figure tilted her head, staring directly at the window, directly at us. Then, the darkness swallowed her again. Don't look, my dad said, pulling us all away from the window. Everyone get to the back of the house, now. But before we could move, we heard it. A soft sound, low and close. Something scraping against the front door. Then a whisper, seeping through the mail slot. Danny, I just want to come inside. I'm so cold. Please let me in. It was still my mother's voice, but there was something wrong with it now. Something too smooth, too perfect, like a recording. The broadcast cut in again, this time just on my phone, the screen glowing in my hand. The text was different now. If it learns your name, do not let it see you. My heart stopped. I looked at my family, all of us frozen. The whispering continued, but now it was changing. Danny, why won't you come outside? I'm waiting for you. Come see me, Danny. But the voice, it wasn't my mother's anymore. It was mine. It was my own voice calling to me from the other side of the door, asking me to come outside to just take a look. And then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The power surged back on. Lights flooded the house. The TV came back to normal programming, some late-night infomercial. The storm was still raging, but the presence, whatever it was, felt gone. We didn't sleep that night. We all stayed together in the living room until dawn when the storm finally broke and the sun came up. My dad checked the security camera footage the next morning. I watched over his shoulder as he scrubbed through the timestamp from last night. The camera had a clear view of the front door. At 11:47 p.m., the mail slot opened. But there was no one there. No figure. No woman in a blue cardigan. Just the mail slot opening on its own. The flap lifting slowly. And then we saw them. Fingers. long, impossibly thin fingers reaching through the slot, feeling around the inside of the door, searching for the lock. The footage cut out after that. We moved out of that house 2 months later. My parents never said it out loud, but I know they were terrified to stay. I was too, because sometimes, late at night, when I'm alone in my new apartment, I still hear it. My own voice, calling my name from the other side of the door, asking me to let myself in.
I should have just kept driving. It was a Thursday night, just past 11, and I was heading home from a double shift at the plant. The storm had rolled in out of nowhere, one of those summer storms that hit so fast and so hard you can barely see 10 feet in front of you. Rain hammering the windshield, wind shaking the car, lightning turning the sky white every few seconds. I had my wipers on full blast, and they still couldn't keep up. The highway was empty. No one in their right mind would be out in this. I was gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles were white, just trying to stay between the lines, when I saw him. A man standing on the shoulder of the road, arm out, thumb up, just standing there. I hit the brakes harder than I meant to. The car skidded a little before stopping about 20 feet past him. I sat there for a second, heart pounding, debating whether to reverse or just keep going. But something made me stop. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was the fact that I'd broken down on this same stretch of road a year ago and someone had helped me. I don't know. I put the car in reverse and rolled back until I was alongside him. That's when I noticed it. He was completely dry. Not damp, not soaked. Dry. His hair wasn't even wet. His jacket looked pressed, clean, like he'd just walked out of a house. Meanwhile, the rain was so thick I could barely see him through the window, and I was only a few feet away. I rolled down the passenger window about halfway. Rain immediately blew in, soaking the seat. "You need a ride?" I shouted over the storm. He didn't answer, just nodded once. Slow, deliberate. "Where are you headed?" He pointed down the road, same direction I was going. I hesitated. Something about him felt off. But I couldn't just leave him out there, not in this. "Get in," I said, unlocking the doors. He walked around to the back door, opened it, and slid into the back seat behind me. Didn't say a word, didn't shake off rain, didn't adjust his clothes. Just sat there, perfectly still, staring straight ahead. I glanced at him in the rearview mirror. His face was blank, pale, expressionless. "You okay, man?" I asked, pulling back onto the road. No response. "Where exactly do you need to go?" Nothing. The temperature in the car dropped. I mean, plummeted. My breath started fogging. I cranked up the heat, but it didn't help. It felt like I'd opened a freezer door. "Look, if you don't tell me where you're going, I can't help you," I said, louder this time. Still nothing. He didn't even blink. I kept driving. My hands were shaking now, and it wasn't from the cold. Something was wrong. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to pull over and make him get out, but I didn't. I just kept going, eyes flicking between the road and the rearview mirror. That's when I noticed it. In the mirror, I could see him sitting there, clear as day, hands folded in his lap, head tilted slightly, staring at the back of my seat. But when I glanced over my shoulder, actually turned to look at the back seat, there was nothing. Just empty space. I whipped my head back to the road, heart slamming against my ribs, looked in the mirror again. He was there, sitting, watching. "What the hell?" I whispered. Lightning flashed, lighting up the inside of the car for a split second. In that flash, I saw him clearly in the mirror, closer now, leaning forward, his face just inches from the back of my head. I jerked forward in my seat, almost swerving off the road. I looked over my shoulder again. Empty. "This isn't real," I said out loud, trying to steady my breathing. "You're tired. You're seeing things." But then I heard it. Breathing. Slow, wet, rasping. Right behind my ear. I could feel it. Cold air brushing the side of my neck with every exhale. I slammed on the brakes. The car skidded, fishtailed, and came to a stop in the middle of the road. "Get out!" I shouted, twisting around to face the back seat. Empty. Nothing. No one. But the door was still closed, locked. I looked back at the mirror. He was there, pressed up against the back of my seat now, his face filling the reflection. Mouth open, too wide than any human mouth should open, and his eyes, black, lightless, staring directly into mine through the glass. The car lurched. I wasn't touching the gas. My foot was on the brake, but the car was moving, steering itself. The wheel turned hard to the right, pulling us toward the shoulder, toward the ditch, toward the water pooling on the side of the road. No, no, no! I grabbed the wheel, fought it, but it wouldn't budge. The car kept turning, kept accelerating. Lightning flashed again, and in that moment, I saw his face in the mirror, drenched now, water pouring from his hair, his mouth, his eyes, his skin pale and bloated like he'd been underwater for days. I screamed, threw the door open, and jumped out. The car kept going, rolled off the shoulder and into the ditch with a sickening crunch. I hit the ground hard, rain hammering down on me, mud soaking through my clothes. I scrambled to my feet and ran. Didn't look back, didn't stop, until I reached the gas station 2 miles down the road. I called a tow truck the next morning, told them where to find the car, told them it had slid off the road in the storm. Didn't mention the rest. When I got there with the driver, the car was half submerged in muddy water. Windows intact, doors still closed. They pulled it out. I stood there shaking as the driver inspected the damage. "Not too bad," he said. "You're lucky." I wasn't listening. I was staring at the back seat. Muddy footprints, clear as day, on the floor, on the seat, wet and dark. "Someone was in your car," the driver said, frowning. I didn't answer. He bent down, looked closer. "Footprints lead out the door, see? Across the mud here. Looks like someone walked away." I followed the trail with my eyes. The prints led up the embankment, across the shoulder, onto the road, and down the highway, toward town, toward my neighborhood. The driver kept talking, but I couldn't hear him anymore, because the footprints didn't stop at the road. They led all the way down to my street, to my driveway, and ended directly behind my house. I didn't go inside. I called my brother, stayed with him for a week. When I finally went back, I checked every lock, every window, every closet, every inch of that house. I never found anything. But sometimes, late at night, when the rain starts up and the thunder rolls in, I hear it. That slow, wet breathing, right behind me. And when I look in the mirror, he's always there, watching, waiting, completely dry.